Greetings, fellow campers. Welcome to my campfire out here in the green. Here you are always welcome. There's no need to worry about the dress code out here. There's no bullying and no harassment here in the green. You are welcome to come as you are. I have a nice fire going and some hot apple cider brewing on the kettle. So why don't you take a seat, take a sip, and let me tell you the ghostly tale of the Devil's Tramping Ground. Now you may think that this is just some tall tale, but I am here to tell you, my little camper, these stories are true. There is a place located in the forest of Bear Creek, North Carolina. The actual place is not very big, about 40 feet around. It's a circular patch of dirt where nothing grows. In fact, nothing has grown there as far back as anyone can remember. Many people have seen it, and a few of you may have heard about it. Christians believed it is where the devil goes to walk in a circular path and contemplate new ways to torture, torment, and lure those young and innocent people to his kingdom of hell. Silly little devil. But with all his tramping around, he has caused the earth to dry and become barren so that nothing grows. Many locals knew about it, and it wasn't until North Carolina native John Hardin wrote his book called The Devil's Tramping Ground and Other North Carolina Mystery Stories. Hardin's book covers the many different mysteries of North Carolina, and I do encourage anyone who enjoys the spooky side of history to check his book out. It was his documentation of the Devil's Tramping Ground that began to attract more than just the locals. Now plenty have ventured out to get their own experience for themselves. For those who are curious, you should know there are no markers, so it is very easy to get lost. In fact, a few have lost their way while wandering out in this area of the green, so hiker, beware when seeking out the land where the devil plays. Oh, and you also should keep an eye on your personal property. It seems when things are left within the ring, or even on either path that leads to and from the circle, they tend to disappear the next morning. This includes anything of little or more value: bottles, glasses, food, camping equipment, keys. Anything is up for grabs when left in the Devil's Tramping Ground. This may come as a shock to you, camper, but this barren circle of dirt has been here long before the Christians and their contemplative devil had appeared. Many years ago, before white settlers took over the lands, the indigenous folks were already aware of this area. The ground was already unchanging. No life had grown in that area well before the 1800s. The indigenous stories are a little foggy, but it states that different tribes would meet there for feasts. But then two warring tribes decided to meet there for an epic battle. There is also a vague rumor that a Croatian chief was buried there. We do know the small tribe of indigenous that did live there were called the Waxhaws, known for their hospitality and the fact that they would lay small sandbags over the foreheads of their babies, causing them to have wide-set eyes and a flat forehead. This explains why many referred to them as flatheads. Sadly, the tribe was small and no match for the diseases the colonies brought with them, especially smallpox. Include the fact that the Waxhaws also gave up their traditional means of weapon making, preferring to trade food and hides with the white folks. Eventually, the Waxhaws that did survive the influx of disease were either killed during the Yamasee Wars or assimilated into neighboring Catawba tribes or the Seminole tribes in Florida. I share this patch of history as there are some who believe that the Waxhaws cursed this patch of land for the treatment they received and the death of their loved ones. Now, camper, it's just a circle of dirt, barren, with not a bit of life growing for hundreds of years. Many, many have tried. They've planted seeds, they've transplanted plants. Nothing survives. Nothing but the eerie feeling of being watched survives here. Now, the North Carolina's Department of Agriculture had tested the soil. Their test proves that the soil itself is sterile. They stated there was way too much salt in that one particular circular spot for anything to grow. Unfortunately, these tests clashed with the 1940s tests. Now, these tests were done independently by W.A. Bridges Labs. Their test results showed the soil was in fact sterile, but there were no extreme levels of salt found. Now, those tests were also forwarded to the Agricultural Department, who also could not find any excessive amounts of salt in that soil sample as well. On November 3rd, 2015, soil tests were redone by soil scientist Richard Hayes. His updated tests prove an astonishing find, camper. Due to the number of campers that had been visiting the Devil's Tramping Ground over the years, and the subsequent campfires that they had built, had caused a layer of ash to be mixed in with the soil. Hayes's results showed that the ash had improved the soil. In fact, the soil fertility was now at optimal conditions, so that life should not just be growing, but flourishing. However, it isn't. In this 40-foot particular location, with soil that proves optimal for growth, there is none. Why has this spot not grown in size? Why has it not diminished in size, for that matter? We know that infection grows when not contained or treated. This area has not grown in size, and it has not shrunken in size. Now, naturally, the green will take back barren land, nurture it, and heal it so it can grow. Even putting salt on the ground can cause damage, but the damage is not forever. The green will reclaim it. Which begs the question, why does the green not want this patch of dirt back? There are a few who suggest that the soil was sterilized by a particular group. Not the colonizers, not the indigenous, but a group of beings who took the Milky Way highway to our little rock. Yep, campers, our big-eyed buddies from another planet may have caused this barren spot. Some believe the only explanation that a patch of earth surrounded by flourishing and thriving green is due to aliens radiating that patch of land. But as for why this particular spot, no one can say. And a few, just a few, believe it to be us witches, who had one hell of a Sabbath on some full moon night at that particular spot of land and the land just never recovered. In the 1930s, there were unconfirmed reports of a ferocious and terrifying beast chasing local hunters from the area of the Devil's Tramping Ground. It chased the hunters and their dogs from that area repeatedly. Eventually, this was believed to be a black bear, which, camper, is completely plausible because at that time there were black bears in the area of North Carolina. Unfortunately, with the logging and deforestation, not only were the indigenous peoples being driven out, but also so were the black bear. Attempts were made to control unregulated hunting, and in the 1960s to the 1970s, efforts were made to protect the female bears. Luckily, these actions have proven fruitful, and the bear population has increased. As of the late 1980s, bear population has been estimated to be around 8,500. So with an increase in bear population and the influx of human population, it's 100% feasible that bear and human actions would have occurred now as well as back in the 1930s. The Devil's Tramping Ground even made it into a few novels written by Poppy Z. Bright. These are Lost Souls and Drawing Blood. Sadly, I haven't read either yet, but I did see the movie The Devil's Stomping Ground, which is about a group of college students who decided to take a trip to the Devil's Tramping Ground in the hopes of catching a glimpse of the devil himself, but only their footage was ever found. Now this one I did watch, camper, and as a fan of independent films, I can say I did enjoy this movie. I happened to have the perfect rainy night setup, so the mood was definitely set for me. So what do you think, camper? Is the Devil's Stomping Ground the place where the devil meets to think up new plans to trick the unsuspecting young people? Is it a place haunted by the battles of the indigenous tribes? Or is it a place that has been cursed? You tell me what you think. Since this podcast is focused around camping, campfires, ghost stories, and legends, I would love to hear your own personal ghost stories. Please feel free to send me your personal stories, and they may have the chance of being shared on the podcast. Names can, of course, be omitted or changed as per your request. Let's keep the tradition of campfire ghost stories alive. You can send your experiences via email to campfireghoststories8@gmail.com. That's campfireghoststories8@gmail.com. And if you'd like to keep up to date on my previous episodes as well as future episodes, you can check out my Instagram page, which is Campfire Ghost Stories. Happy camping!